Welcome to Between the Reads, where we shine a spotlight on some of the most talented Black authors in the industry to discuss their works of fiction and the inspirations behind them. Each episode, we'll dive into the rich and diverse world of literature, exploring everything from historical fiction to romance and speculative fiction to YA and beyond. Tune in as we celebrate the voices of Black authors and the power of storytelling. Are you ready, Boos and Bros? Then sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Lacey is a coffee-loving author who uses caffeine to generate fiction. Dark, urban, dystopian, and speculative stories with diverse adult and young adult characters are her forte. She enjoys posting and collecting coffee memes, watching horror movies, anime, and reading. You might bump into her at local Comic-Cons and other such nerd fests. When not nerding out, she loves to connect with readers and authors. Lacey, welcome to Between the Reads.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Listen, these stories were there were a couple that were my favorites. Yeah. So, Minor Mischief. It's a YA horror anthology. What was the inspiration behind this book?
I've always wanted to just see, like with most fiction, it's always when a kid hits their teens that they come into their powers. But I'm like, what would happen if you have a little bitty one who is just super powerful? What do you do with that? And I honestly, it goes back to it takes a village to raise a kid. And it's just whoever's in that child's life, male or female, has a lot of work to do because they're going to shape who they become. But it's going to be fun because they're kids.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting if you're dealing with little ones, and especially little ones who have superpowers. That's a whole nother ball game.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
So the title is Minor Mischief, and children are the main characters in your stories. So aside from the fact of having little ones, why did you decide to write horror stories from a child's point of view?
That's a good one. I like that question. Just for kids, I think the world is big and it's new, and the unknown is always scary. So it's like your first run-in with something you don't understand is terrifying. And then I feel like even in the story itself, there are points where adults will be scared, but the kid isn't because they don't understand that this is
not
a
normal.
Bad situation. Like they don't get it.
Yeah. So how did you navigate the balance between giving your child characters agency in their supernatural experience while preserving the genuine vulnerabilities of their age? And I'm thinking specifically here of like in Pinky Swear and Heartburn.
Let's see. For Pinky Swear, just the whole idea of, I feel like with kids, they have their own world and their own universe, and they're their own people. So it's their own little community. You have the adults and then you have the kids. And it's like, I remember like the power of a promise and how when Mama said, you're going to McDonald's next Saturday, we're going to McDonald's next Saturday. When I get up, I'm asking a question.
Right.
Are we going to McDonald's? Because you said. And just how promises are really important to a child because they have that innocence, and also just that sense of I have to do this. Like there's just that kids do have their own agency where if like the whole idea of right and wrong, adults, I feel like we've grayed that out. But with kids, it's very clear. And if no one else is going to do right, I'm going to do it. And they're just going to go do it. That's just what they do. And with Heartburn, just knowing, like having that desire to like experience something.
Hmm.
For my character in Heartburn, she's a latchkey kid. I grew up a
Hmm.
latchkey kid.
Right, me too.
And just that whole, okay, well, mama said, and these are the rules. But then there's this girl who wants to be my friend.
Hmm.
And I've always wanted to see a fairy garden and just wanting to go out and explore
Hmm.
and willing to take that risk
Hmm.
because it's something new,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
And I think that that's also a part of just childhood and,
Hmm.
just gaining that experience,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's worth it to take that risk.
Right. Right. And that also speaks to the fact of parents when they tell their kids to do something. And at least from, our generation, our parents told us to do stuff. And a lot of times there was no explaining why. And you
Right.
didn't ask why. But, in certain situations, telling us the why might have been, the difference between us doing what they asked us to do and not. And I think that just goes to showing that whole piece of they're kids, but they're little people. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you just need to explain the why behind something so that they understand the importance of it on their level, that you're not just doing it to be mean or just to make them have no fun. You're trying to keep them safe from things that they don't understand.
Yeah.
And her mother didn't, you know, in my eyes, she didn't give her the why she needs to stay behind closed doors and not even, look through the peephole. Just stay at
Stay
home
there.
and wait till mommy gets home. And I feel like if she had told her some things that, that might have helped.
Yeah. And then sometimes the whys make kids more daring because it's like, okay, you said I shouldn't because, but I
Hmm.
need to see
Right.
if that's real. So there's also the flip side of that.
Right. That's why I said you got to choose. You got to choose your battles. You got to figure out which ones are the important ones and which ones you just like, no.
Right.
But either way, at least with our generation, we probably going to do it anyway, regardless. So,
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
so green eyes appear as a feature in multiple characters in your stories.
Hmm.
Is there a significant meaning behind that common thread, or was that just something that was coincidence?
I don't know. For me, I feel like it's a subconscious symbol, I guess, for me, of growth
Hmm.
to me and healing as well.
Green eyes, really?
Yeah. I don't know, because like my granny's maiden name is Gardner, and that's
Okay.
always like I find myself subconsciously referring to just earth and gardens and the health of things,
Hmm.
being, healing and growth.
Hmm.
But I also like the color green. I
Uh,
because I met I also because I met this there was this girl in college from the Bahamas, dark skinned black girl with the most striking green eyes.
hmm.
The contrast of dark skin and green eyes is just like, whoa.
Hmm.
And I maybe that's also something that sort of subconsciously stuck with me
Huh.
as well. Cause she was like, I was like, whoa. Plus, it's
Right.
like it's just wow. Cause I'm used to everybody I know has brown eyes or
Hmm.
hazel,
Hmm.
but never like bam, green, unchanging green, and like a really resonant green. And it
Hmm.
just sort of stood out.
Hmm. And so it's just this a subconscious thing. You just kind of
Yeah, they just sort of pop right in there. Like, I like green. I like green.
You remind me of my good friend Chelsea Lockhart, because the green is her favorite color, and
I
her in her
know.
books, We Are Dying Gods and We Are the Origin. The gods, they have, at least Brandy and Freya, they have green eyes.
I know those covers got me because I'm like, green eyes. I love the cover.
They're
Yes.
and the books are just as good as the covers are. So I mean,
Hmm.
buy the books and just put them on your shelf just to look at them because they're pretty.
Oh yeah. No, the plan is to read them because I already have like, if you notice, I've got like books everywhere.
Uh
So,
huh.
some are TBRs, some I've read, And I'm the kind of person who will read a book like more than once.
Right.
And recently I had to buy another copy of the anthology Slay
Okay.
because I've bent the spine. So I had to like, oh,
Ah.
so I buy two copies of my favorite books now, one for the
Okay.
shelf and one for me to read.
One for you to read. Okay. See, I'm just book violent. I just open them up, read them,
Just,
bend them, highlight them,
hmm.
whatever. That's me. I get into my books.
Oh yeah, I've started using like little post-it flags to highlight spots that are like, wow, I love
Uh-huh.
this. Highlight, highlight.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. So, what cultural myths or legends influence the supernatural elements in your stories?
Just growing up Southern Black, my granny, she was from the Carolinas, but we lived in Homestead, Florida.
Okay.
And then my grandpa was from the Bahamas, and they always talk about root work. My granddaddy would warn me about walking around barefoot or take you like you don't like when you comb your hair, you don't let your hair fall anywhere, and it's those unspoken, hints of, you don't want anybody getting your stuff, getting your hair, or they could do a root, work roots on you or, stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
I literally knew a woman who came to church who was the local voodoo woman,
Mhm.
and I'm
Wow.
like, it was sort of normal for me.
Uh,
Like I've got friends from all over the place because I did research on one book at a barbecue. My friend is Haitian, her husband's from Togo, Africa.
mhm.
And I'm like, the stories alone, I'm like, it's perfect. It's like so much of our culture in general, no matter where you come from, is steeped in the paranormal.
Mm. So I want to go back because my grandmother's from Macon, Georgia. Now she always said, she would burn her hair because she said
Hmm.
that if a bird got hold of your hair and would make a nest with it, it would make you go crazy.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
But with the bare feet thing, you got to elaborate on this one for me. What's the thing with walking around in your bare feet?
I think it would have something to do like if you're walking around in bare feet, you can step in something that someone leaves for you that's not good. And then the whole
Huh?
idea of also, letting your blood spill and someone getting a hold of it, that kind of thing.
Really?
Yeah. Like my granny,
Huh?
I don't know where her beliefs came from,
Hmm.
but it's like all they have to do is tell you something consistently and it becomes a
Right.
part of you when you're growing up.
Hmm. I've never heard the barefoot thing. And Lord knows I run around barefoot all the time because I just believe in grounding myself with the earth because, I grow food. So a lot of
Oh
times I
yeah.
like to go out there and just my bare feet and just feel the
Well,
soil. But
even with Granny telling us not to run around barefoot, we ran around barefoot. We just, look left, look right, turn around and
right.
look behind you, make sure she's not there. Then off go the shoes.
right.
Yeah, and then, when you get cut, you try to keep it quiet.
like nothing, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, that's
But
how
you're
we
still here.
rolled.
I'm still here.
Yes.
We're good. We're
Yeah.
good.
Alive.
Yeah. Doing well.
Yep. Yep. Thriving.
So Pinky Swear. I think this was probably my favorite of all the stories. And it was a
Yes.
heavy hitter, no pun intended.
Yes.
And you have Hank, who's a womanizer, and he's also extremely abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And he meets his match with Delilah.
Oh, yes.
Now, without giving anything away, I want to talk about that story. Where did that come from?
I would say that story comes from, again, the power of a promise.
Mm-hmm.
And then just I'm the big sister, so I'm the oldest of five.
Okay.
And just the responsibility of just being the oldest is. It's not even just from the parents, but it's like as an older sister, I'm like, I have to be the role model. I have to, and it's like it's that self-imposed responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Delilah, it's just that, I promised I would take care of him and we swore on it, and being nearby, it's just that whole spiritual connection between siblings.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sometimes, even though I'm miles and miles away from my own siblings, you sort of get the hint, like, I don't know, there's just something in your spirit, like, you know what, let me call them. Let's see
Mm-hmm.
what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that taking it a step further, where Carlos's sister, of course, Delilah, she's like, okay, I need to step in, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because Carlos is a handful, yes, but his
Mm-hmm.
sister is going to, stand in the gap.
Mm-hmm. And boy, does she.
Oh, yes, I loved her. I love putting her
I
together.
Oh my goodness. Where did her character come from? What was your inspiration for her character?
It's just the spunk of the preteens. Like,
Hmm.
she's like, their fashion sense is whatever. I am
Right.
who I am.
Right.
I like polka dots, I like stripes, I like tutus. So I'm
Right.
gonna wear all of it. And
Right.
I am fabulous. That's just her. And then I remembering how, like, when you try to do your own hair,
Hmm.
I like Afro puffs. Are they
Hmm.
straight? No, but
No.
they're fine because I have Afro puffs.
Right.
Like, I used to love beads.
Mm.
As soon as they're in my head, I'm shaking away, because I love beads.
Right.
Excuse moi, I am fabulous. The world is great.
Right.
And for her, she's like, she's got nothing to lose because she's
Hmm.
like, no one can hurt me anymore. And I'm going to make
Hmm.
sure you don't hurt anybody that I care for,
Hmm.
you
And
know.
there's a little hint for y'all.
Oh,
There's
yes.
a little hint.
Oh, yes. I loved her.
Delilah, the way was just kind of smiling. And
Oh,
when he was
yes.
like, get out my house, and her face just went flat and she was like, make me. It's like, oh,
I loved her. I loved her.
that should have told you right there, bruh, that you 6'4" honking man with a body build,
Mm-hmm.
and used to be a football player, kept up the body, and this little girl stands 10 toes down and says, "Make me." That should be your clue right there that you ain't gonna win this fight.
Oh, yeah. And it's, just being an advocate, because I would say the cool thing with kids is they will advocate for each other,
Mhm.
and they will keep talking until someone can come in and help them.
Right.
But until then, they're going to advocate. Like they will,
Mhm.
I've read stories, and I've seen, like, news broadcasts where children will, they'll protect each other. They'll hide, if something bad is coming,
Mhm.
one will offer as a sacrifice to protect the others. And I feel like
Right.
that's sort of what formed that story. Like,
Mhm.
I will be your barrier, I will be your shield. You run, you go get help, you run, you hide.
Right.
Don't let him get you.
The end broke my heart though. It's like, I don't want to say what it
I
was, but you
know.
know how
Yeah.
she was in the playground
Mm-hmm.
and just what's there that
Yeah.
nobody knows is there.
Mm-hmm.
That's so heartbreaking,
It
and that
is.
really speaks to the projects and the way things happen in inner city neighborhoods, and nobody gives a damn, because if that was an upper class neighborhood,
Oh,
even a
yeah.
middle class neighborhood, there's no way that things would not have been found.
Yeah. And that's also a part that I wanted to sort of let linger, because it's
Mhm.
it's 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 a sad and ugly truth,
Mhm.
and that she even
Mhm.
realizes these things at such a
Yeah.
young age.
Mhm. Yeah. Because like even with the police, and things were said and the police didn't follow through, it's like,
Hmm.
because they're black.
Yep. Yep.
Because if they were white and things were said, like what was said to the police in this story, if
Hmm.
they were white, a whole investigation. Well, what do you mean by that? What's going on? There
Oh,
would have been
yeah.
digging, but with this, it was just like, oh, who cares?
Yeah, whatever. It's another one gone.
Yeah.
And just even people in the community knowing what's wrong, and the whole not snitching thing,
Right.
how that can do more harm than good. And
Mm-hmm.
then the same people who are like, won't say anything are the ones wailing and crying and, oh my God, on TV. And
Mm-hmm.
because I have an aunt who, well, she passed, but whenever there's a funeral, like, you have whenever you have a home going, there's a program where, people speak, they sing. And
Mm-hmm.
literally, I feel like they should have put on the program, my aunt is going to faint right as she goes to the casket. She, without fail, because her son would look and be like roll his eyes, like, ah.
See the woman, I cannot remember her name. Remember on Good Time, she was always going to somebody's funeral, even though she didn't know
Yes.
them.
Yep, yep, yep.
It's like, what's wrong with this woman? She just would. She looked for people's funerals to go to. Like, what are
That's
you doing?
crazy. But yeah, you have those.
Yeah, yeah. So in the story Heartburn,
Hmm.
there's a theme of othering. And there are
Yes.
layers to it. It's not just it's and othering stems from a place of fear and misunderstanding and the need for one group to assert its dominance over the others. But
Hmm.
it's not just about race. It's about skin conditions, it's about who you are or are not. It's
Hmm.
societal. So I want to talk about how you explored this theme in the context of the Arshan family story.
Yes. Ah, the idea of othering. It's
Mhm.
like that's actually constantly going on currently, how people are testing the waters to see how far they can go to mistreating. And just
Mhm.
with this particular, because I remember I got a comment or a review from the anthology that I wrote this piece for originally. How someone said, "Oh, you're using, you know, the pandemic, that's sort of tired and just the government coming in and doing this and doing that." And I'm like, well, it's sort of kind of in your face right now.
Right.
And just exploring it where you have a kid and she wakes up, like like all of her, like because of what she is, not just her culture, that makes it easier because they're technically not fully American,
Mhm.
but add on to it that there's something else. And how he literally, the one character has like a seal, like, oh, you don't have any rights. And the
Right.
fact that he burst out laughing, oh,
Mhm.
because you're in America, ha ha ha, and just
Right.
throwing it in their face. And it's like, that's what othering is, like, it's like it slips in
Mhm.
unseen
Mhm.
because this particular group that's doing what they're doing, nobody really knows about them, but
Mhm.
yet and still they've got their hands on all of these, you know, it's easy to say creatures, but they're beings, they are
Mhm.
their own being.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
they have no rights and people don't really know about them because they're pulled out of the forefront.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And then, it's just she was just such a quiet little girl,
Yes.
and because of that, that she was preyed upon, and that was just so powerful because, you think she's othered because of her eczema,
Hmm.
but she's really othered for a much larger reason.
Yeah.
That
And
was just,
then
yeah.
I feel like that also plays a part in, I like, a lot of conversations that I've had with, like, I have friends from some of everywhere.
Hmm.
And being from Miami originally, a lot of my friends are Haitian. And
Hmm.
I remember talking to a friend of mine who, she's Haitian, but she's born in the US. And she just talked about being born in America, but
Hmm.
being, from another country and just still maintaining your culture,
Mm.
you know, and
Hmm.
and just being around people from different cultures and just having those friendships and just being able to talk, you know like heart to heart about things, and just how sometimes, you know just sort of disconnecting from your culture for the
Right.
sake of acceptance. And her skin condition, I feel, is sort of like representative of that. You're
Right.
American, and just right now how it's sort of like a wrestle with people who are not from the US originally, but just trying to claim it and as a form of safety, as a form of acceptance. And for her, that was like, her shame was her skin condition. So she's like, quiet. I don't want anybody to look at it. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's how I feel that happens with race or just your culture in general. Like, oh, if I'm fair skinned, oh no, I'm not black. Or,
Mm-hmm.
or even not that I'm not black. Oh, who are like, hey, you look
You're
interesting.
safe because
Yeah, you're safe.
you're closer to whiteness in their
Yeah.
eyes.
Or
Yeah.
how someone would say, like, someone might, like, they'll introduce themselves as their country of
Mm-hmm.
origin
Mm-hmm.
rather than, you know, shy away from, oh, I'm black.
Right. Yeah.
Because in Florida, we have like a big Latin community, and I have friends who are from Cuba, like super black, black, black Cubans. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have your fair skinned Cubans.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a conversation with a friend. He's darker than me, got the nappy hair and all, got the fro, got the whole
Mm-hmm.
going.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, your daughter's like he had his wife was white and their daughter was biracial.
Biracial. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so yeah, she's white and black. She's like, no, she's white and Cuban. I'm like, I looked at him like, dude,
You're a black Cuban.
you're black. I know your mom, your dad, your
Mm-hmm.
brother.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are black. Y'all just are on from
Mm-hmm.
Cuba, but you're
Mm-hmm.
black.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
Afro-Cuban.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's no
Yeah.
shame in it. It's
There's no shame
just
in it. But in this country, the people mistakenly believe that the closer you are to whiteness, the better you are. You
right.
know? And
And
it's sad.
yeah, and I'm like the imaginations and just so many things that other cultures have created.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of who we are, how we grew
Right.
up, where we're from. Because
Mm-hmm.
I grew up poor, and I'm like, you have to have an imagination to
Mm.
entertain yourself as a
Yes.
kid, which usually
Yes.
equals trouble. But
That's a whole nother story.
we always had something to do. We were never bored.
Right.
All we knew is we had to be in the house when the lights came on. That is
Exactly.
it. We can do
That's it.
whatever we want. Just
Mm-hmm.
be in the house when
When
the
the
lights
lights
came
come
on.
on. Yep. That's it. That's
Hmm.
it. It just reminds me of that woman who did that Instagram reel that she said that our generation was the last generation of feral kids and that they
Yes,
actually had to make a commercial saying it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
yes, yes, yes.
If your parents go to sleep like, oh, and people in the comments were like, true story. My mother heard the commercial come on and was like, oh, damn, I do have kids. Let me go find out
Where
where
they
they
at? Where
are.
they at? Yeah, yeah. We
Because,
were
honey,
not.
we were gone, and especially in the summertime, there's no
Oh
school.
yeah.
The kid and we latchkey kids, so the parents are at work. We hit the road on our bikes like 8, 9
Hmm.
o'clock in the morning. We ain't
Yep.
coming home until the street lights come on.
Oh yeah. And then the community that I grew up in, we would pool our money together. The lady at the store had all of our parents' numbers. As soon
Mm-hmm.
as we hit the store, she was calling our mamas. You know, everybody, all the places where we went,
Right.
people knew our people and they
Mm-hmm.
would like check in. Hey, they over here,
You're
right?
right.
And that would be how
Right.
it went.
Right. Right. And don't mess up because you going to get spanked by somebody else's mama. And then when your parents get home, you going to get it again.
Yeah, it's like literally walking the green mile. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you get in trouble. Your granny know, your auntie know, the neighbors know. You get the stink eye
Everybody
from
know.
this person,
Mm-hmm.
you just get it all.
Yeah, you get it all from every angle. So there was more motivation to at least not get caught.
Yeah, yeah, basically, yes. It was rare that you get caught.
Right.
Very rare.
Right. Right. So in The Boy Who Cried Vampire,
Mm-hmm.
Ricky can't convince anyone that vampires are real.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of serves as a metaphor for real world situations where children's concerns are often dismissed and overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose to tackle this particular issue in this story?
Because I feel like it's important. Because in an age where, not all adults are trustworthy,
Mm-hmm.
when a kid is telling you something, no matter how fantastical, sometimes it's just they don't have the words.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as an adult, we need to sit down and pay attention to what they're
Mm-hmm.
saying and
Mm-hmm.
help them with their words.
Right.
Because, like, I do, and it's funny because, like, I've done childcare in my church forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed, and I also like started, I have a degree in education, though, in Florida, that you may as well burn it because, it's pointless in Florida. That's where I got it. But I noticed the thing with kids is that when you sit down and you look them in the eye and you pay attention to what they're saying, they feel safe to tell their truth,
Mm-hmm.
and it's for us to just sort of discern and figure out and go in and help,
Right.
you know. And
Right.
I think with Ricky, it's just, again, that sense of, since no one's listening, I have to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
just having to take on that responsibility as such a little person,
Mm-hmm.
but he did have help, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right. Right. He did
But
have
it's
help.
just that whole, just seeing it from the kid's perspective. It's like, this is true. Why don't you believe me? And
Right.
it's like the flip side of the boy who cried wolf
Right.
without the malicious, like, because the boy who cried wolf, he was just doing it just to do it.
Right. Just to do it.
But this little guy, he's like, but it's for real, and then
Mm-hmm.
also, processing loss. Like he's gone
Mm-hmm.
through loss,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got something chasing him.
Right.
And the people that he trusts don't believe him because he's little.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a kid. And
Right.
sometimes some of the, I feel like sometimes kids can say things that are wise
Right.
if we pay
Absolutely. From
attention.
the mouth of babes.
Yes, because their view of the world is like, it's unblemished, it's
Right.
untainted.
Mm-hmm.
So what they see is raw and what they say is raw.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you want to know the truth, does my breath stink? Talk to a kid, they'll tell you.
They will let you know for sure.
Yep. While they hose their nose and go like this, like, ah,
Like,
their breath.
yes. Did you know it? Do you know what a toothbrush is?
Yes. Or here's some of my candy. Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
We're like, okay, thank you.
yeah, it's like they have unfiltered truth, but then
Mm-hmm.
we start to filter them because I feel like with that story, kids learn not to talk when people aren't listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
cool to explore in a creative way just the dangers of also like filtering your kids and muting them, like
Mm-hmm.
not listening. It's a
Yeah.
dangerous thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talked about a little bit about it. So it's kind of a spin on the boy who cried wolf. But
Yeah.
why did you choose to put your spin on that particular tale?
On that particular tale,
On the why did you choose to put a spin on the boy who cried wolf for this story?
I don't know. I guess I think that that's the perspective adults can have on children
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to them and their speech
Mm-hmm.
and when they're, saying things that, because already you have like, okay, you have the Gen Xers and the Gen Zers and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like we're labeling and in a sense othering because like, oh, you're too young for that.
Mm-hmm.
I know better because I'm an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with the boy who cried wolf, how initially he got everyone's attention.
Mm-hmm.
When he came, he shouted like, oh, there's a wolf, wolf, wolf. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
came out.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the third time, they're like, don't believe him. But
Right.
for this little guy, he's like, there is a vampire. Like, hello,
Right.
there is
Mm-hmm.
a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
But no one's believing him. So
Mm-hmm.
even though he's shouting it as loud as possible,
Mm-hmm.
the adults are wrapping it up as, oh, it's just trauma. Oh,
Right.
it's just this. Oh, it's just
Mm-hmm.
that. Instead of, okay, he's telling the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, horror books are often a reflection of societal fears.
Mhm.
How do you use the horror genre to address experiences that are unique to the Black community?
Oh, let's see. I would think just even with heartburn, I
Mm-hmm.
would say heartburn is a perfect example. I
Yes.
would say even the Magic and Kisses, how, with the death of magic, how
Mm-hmm.
people are still chasing any source of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and how people had to hide their magic, or else, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to get literally siphoned of your talent. And if you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, like when it comes to social media, how Black creators are often taken from,
Yes.
but yet the other race, like, we have our palm colored friends who will take what's the creation and appropriate it
Mm-hmm.
and make millions. But
Yes.
yet you have the Black creators who started it, who are ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're literally stealing from and profiting off of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then for heartburn, it's just that latchkey. Like when you go, like the fear is when you, like, even subconsciously, the fear of a parent sending their Black child into the world.
Right.
It's a scary thing because the focus used to be on our Black men, but it's also Black women.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're just as preyed upon as the men are.
Yes.
And so it's like the moment you go out that door, it's like roll the dice and, say a prayer and hope that you get home. And that's the same
Yeah.
thing. And that's the fear, of, just the outside,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that sort of is like a quiet
Mm-hmm.
theme just in that particular,
Mm-hmm.
story. And just even
Mm-hmm.
growing up, it's like I think about it. Why did our parents, would say, don't open the door, don't answer the door? It's because it doesn't take much to take a child away from a parent. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's no sympathy for the single working parent,
Mm-hmm.
who can't afford childcare,
Mm-hmm.
and just those things that aren't available and that,
Yeah.
parents have to teach their kids, okay, don't do this because in a sense it's a desperate, it's a move to keep your family together too,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then I know for, like, the boy who cried vampire, little Ricky,
Mm-hmm.
it's just also that the grandma and just how grandparents are now raising the babies and
Mm-hmm.
how she's doing her thing, she's working, she's
Mm-hmm.
providing, and he's all the family she has left,
Mm-hmm.
and she's, doing what she can to keep them together. And
Mm-hmm.
even in his own way, Ricky is too, but still the danger's there, and just
Right.
being willing to, like, just that, I don't know, I can't say a willingness, but just that need to be quiet, even in the midst of danger, for the
Mm-hmm.
sake of keeping everybody together.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's just always that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's why, the themes of trauma and resilience and survival resonate more in books, the Black horror books, because of all of these things that you just talked about. Our experience here in this country is innately different
Hmm.
from the experience of white people and, even other people of color. It's like Black people are specifically targeted in the most heinous, the most horrible ways.
Hmm.
And a lot of times that transfers into the horror genre. I feel like the horror genre is probably one of the most political genres where Black authors are concerned.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, as a Black woman, are there any particular themes that you find yourself returning to over and over again in your stories?
I think a lot of my themes are having to save yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't really wait on somebody to like come to the rescue.
Mm-hmm.
That's just been something I've witnessed throughout life in general. It's like you have to be able to save yourself. You have to be able
Yeah.
to think on your feet. You have to be ready,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I feel like that's a theme, like no matter the age of the character, it's just got to be willing to do what it takes to just to preserve your life, to save
Yeah.
yourself. So
Yeah.
that's like a common theme. And then think subtly, trying to think. That's like the main one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think throughout the stories, there's always just family. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes family is not always blood.
Mm-hmm.
You can have people that are just as close to you that are not family,
Mm-hmm.
that look out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Ricky's case, there's like a security guard
Mm-hmm.
that happened to have a little extra. And
Right.
but he watched out for him. He's
Yeah.
like, hey, little dude.
Mm-hmm.
And there are those people that are trustworthy that are your guardians. So,
Right.
sometimes they can protect you more than family
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have that filter of, oh, that's just so and so,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just like with Patrick, they call him Peanut, he's a little guy, but
Mm-hmm.
Patrick had his powers and Patrick had his abilities,
Yes.
and we do have that family filter,
Mm-hmm.
we just do. Oh, that's so and so, you just by default ignore them because they're kin, but yet
Right. Right.
you have someone who's from the outside who's like, oh yeah, there is that dynamic that makes
Mm-hmm.
it interesting.
Mm-hmm. I meant to ask you that. The policeman in Patrick's story,
Hmm.
he was not like a policeman.
He was a policeman, but he was a little policeman with a little something extra. He's
I was gonna
connected to something more.
yeah, I was gonna say I feel like he's either not human or there's something going on there
Yeah,
because
he had a little extra because he was
yeah,
aware of what Patrick what like. He wasn't shocked by what was going on
not
in
at all.
not at all. So he was like a level head while everybody else is fainting, passing out, and just losing their mind.
All these men and women of God who are supposed to be strong and
Oh
able to
my gosh.
to get people with
Yep.
the power of the word, and they all scrambling as soon as Nana B sits up.
I know. And I had so much fun with that because I'm like, I literally imagine what would it look like if the recently deceased just sat up? What would
like
happen?
what's up, y'all? How you doing?
Yeah, that was like so much fun to write, because usually, the man of God, the priest,
Right.
who, passed out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Folks peeing in their pants and
Yep. I loved
pooping
it.
on themselves. I was just like, all these people supposed to be so strong in the word of God and so tough, and every one of y'all ain't call
Running.
on nobody, just running,
Oh
running.
yeah. Yep, it's that self-preservation. That what is it? That true test of faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And meanwhile, Patrick's sitting there like, what's wrong with y'all? She's just
Yeah, I
sleeping.
don't get
I
it.
woke her up. What's the problem?
Yeah, and that's the purity of kids. It's
Mm-hmm.
like just Patrick's ability was born of just that old wives' tale, or just I remember hearing my aunt and my grandma talk about it that children can see the dead, children can see angels. And I'm like, okay, well, what would happen if you had a little one who can not only see the dead, but wake them up? And it's just that sheer desire to
Mm-hmm.
get back his most favorite person.
Right. Yeah, and he's just like, I don't want to put her back to sleep. I wanted to stay here.
Yep. And then, of course, the him being called by his full first, middle, and last name.
You in trouble.
Yep, how automatically knew. Assume the position, head down, don't look at her. Don't look at her. She's mad. I did something bad.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, Patrick was my favorite, but like I said, that cop, I was like,
Yeah.
no, he ain't fully human or something. There's something
Yes, which I
magical
like
going on with
having that
him.
little mystery part and
Mhm.
having that wild card in there.
Yeah. Yeah, still he's a
Hmm.
little creepy to me. I'd be giving him a wide berth.
Oh, yes,
I'm
yes,
good. You
yes.
stay over there. I ain't gonna make you mad. We just gonna be cool. I say hi to you and
Yeah,
keep it moving.
basically, yes. Yes, because you ain't right.
Right. Yeah, nah.
You're not right. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. So what's next for you in the writing world?
Well, I have, as we talked about, just how justice impacts the hood. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on a piece because I love werewolves, and we're gonna have werewolves in the wrong side of town, and how that would be how that would play out.
Oh.
So that's a piece, like, map fleshing that out, and that's gonna be my NaNoWriMo piece.
Oh, okay.
But right now, I am composing another little mini anthology because I have all these stories that pop into my head, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they don't need to be sitting on my computer. Let me put them together
Right.
and send them out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I have like a bigger anthology that's all short stories, a la Stephen King, how he would do his.
Oh, okay.
And it's called All Fun and Games Until Someone Triggers the Apocalypse. So
Oh,
it's a
wow.
lot of short stories, and the central characters are young adults, and it's dystopian.
Okay.
And I do a play on, you know, what is it? Just the whole theme of No Child Left Behind
Mm-hmm.
spurred a couple of stories, and just, comment like current events, like, shooting, like school shootings and stuff like that, how
Mm-hmm.
those are handled, but how there is a wild card who has the money and has the resources to create a program that will counter that
Mm-hmm.
by
Okay.
use of, androids. So it's going to have that sci-fi spin.
Okay.
So it's going to be, it's cool. It's fun putting it together. I've got ancestors, that whole sci-fi magic, mix of ancestry. And I'm having fun just sorting the order. Most of
Mm-hmm.
them are written. I have a couple I need to finish.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm looking to hopefully have that done by February in time for Black History Month,
Okay.
because yeah, I love the stories. I think they're going to be pretty well received.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're interested, I can hook you up with an art copy once I get them all done,
Oh, of
you know.
course you know I'm gonna be interested. You don't even have to
Yeah, yeah.
ask.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll get that to you, because it's like I love writing, but it's like just I really am trying to connect with people who will love my style of writing, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm me. I'm not everybody else.
Right.
I love kids, so there's always going to be that young adult factor.
Right.
And just the power of, and just the power of family, even if it's found family,
Mm-hmm.
and just how important that is. Because I actually
Right.
have a dystopian piece in mind, a trilogy, because my favorite person was my grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always fun because he was always, grandpa was fun, trouble, he could cook, but he
Mm-hmm.
was the cool dude. And he's going to be one of my characters in this dystopian piece that I'm working on. And just how important the grandparents are to a
Mm-hmm.
child in forming them.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I definitely want my art copy. I definitely want to read these. So
perfect. I'll
bring
put
them
you on my
on.
list.
So where can readers find your books?
Well, right now my books are all on Amazon.
Okay.
And as of January, I'm going to start one by one pulling them off of the exclusivity of Amazon and
Mm-hmm.
branching out.
Okay.
Because, I feel like Amazon is like sort of like my training wheels. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Amazon is where everybody is, but
Mm-hmm.
really just breaking out and getting out there,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
just spreading my wings. But
Okay.
Amazon is a place to be.
Mm-hmm.
I also have my website, emlacey.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking for me socially, I am on TikTok as author EM Lacey on all platforms. That would be Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. That's where I am socially active. All that other stuff, Let's see, Twitter, Blue Sky.
Threads.
I just can't. I'm like,
Right.
the problem with authors, or I will say this author, my attention span. I feel like me and the kids, we identify because after 2 to 3 minutes, I'm gone.
Right.
So I can't do the distraction. I even have to be
Right.
careful with TikTok because I'm
Mhm.
like, instead of me posting a video, what am I doing? Scrolling, chuckling at everything, and so, and what am I not doing? Writing.
Yeah.
So I have to
Yes.
be careful with the social media because,
Right.
I'm a
Yeah.
consumer.
It's a rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah, it is. And
For
then
sure.
forget the fact that you have all these people recommending all these books. And I'm like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
buying everybody's book, but I'm not writing mine. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, gotta be careful.
Right. Yeah, right. Right. Well, you answered the next question, which was where we can find you on social media. So y'all heard the
Mm-hmm.
answer. And
Yes.
with that, we have come to the end of our show. Thank you so much for sharing your time and talents with us today.
Thank you for having me. This is great practice because eventually I shall, branch out into the podcast world,
All
you know,
right.
connect with more people. I don't know
Yeah.
if I have the attention span to do my own or the focus,
Uh-huh.
but I'm more than happy to pop on anybody's podcast who,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pop on other people's platforms, promote your book. There you go.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And y'all know what time it is. At the end of every show, I leave you with a quote. And today, my quote comes from horror author Tanana Reeve Dew. And she says, "Your past is your shadow. It has form, but no substance, except in the places where you allow it to touch you." Until next time, y'all, you know what to do. Grab a book and read, and I'm out. Thank you for lending me your ear today. If you've enjoyed this independent podcast, you can help me continue to shine the light on Black authors and their stories by becoming a patron at patreon.com/betweenthereads, or by giving a one-time gift at www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. That's ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. Tune in next time for another great episode.